Hello again, everybody. It's Raven, and I've got a replay cast for you today, but it's a very special replay cast. And that is because this is actually a Wargame learning program cast where basically me and Potato were in a game with four newer players, two on each of our team, and playing with them against each other as part of an event we did yesterday night or yesterday afternoon. And then afterwards we talk about it and discuss and dissect, and it's a pretty fun thing. I like to think it helps newer players a lot, and that was the point of this. It's not super competitive. Here I am with a Japanese deck, as you'll see, and Potato's here with me,
Hello, everyone.
the aggressively trollish NATO Potato.
As always.
So everything's just getting set up. We're actually going to focus more on our side of the map here at Bravo, India. You can see Potato just pinged that he's going to Bravo. I'm going to India. And the point of this, for the purposes of a YouTube video, is to show a pretty intense battle, albeit just one section of the battle, and be able to give commentary on it from both sides, which I think is pretty valuable. And when evaluating your own replays and your own battles, it is really nice to be able to get insight and feedback from whoever you're playing against to maybe understand better what they did or what you should have done. So yeah, what did you think of this battle, Potato, as we're waiting for the stuff to come out?
It was definitely enjoyable. I think whenever you can get two people of equal skill fighting against each other, it's always going to be fun. Um, I kind of, in my rust, forgot that you were playing a Japanese deck and assumed I was going against a Blue Dragon deck, which kind of screwed some of my thinking up. But
As you
overall, I
sh-
think it was a very fun battle.
as you should know, I don't play coalitions at all. But yeah,
Yeah, I totally forgot.
but this actually was our first game back after a month and a half for me probably, and maybe a little longer for you. But yeah, there's a lot of rust on the keyboard for both of us, I think. For my part, for those who don't know, NATO Potato always, and I mean always, starts with two T-72 BUs when he plays USSR. And I should have known that, and I forgot. So here I am with a Japanese deck, just throwing down whatever the hell I want. And of course, at the same time, remember we have two newer players, so we're both occasionally diverting to give advice or explain what's happening to them. And so that diverts our attention. And I know for my part, I was talking to them, and then the timer was running out, so I missed probably 50 points of deployment at the start, but it wasn't a big deal. It's just to feed into that.
Yeah, I think I got all my deployment points down, but I definitely you can you can see all my pings on the right side of the map where I was trying to give a little bit of advice on how to play that side.
Now, you
So
guys, a lot of times when you play this map, you actually double up India and Bravo and ignore Hotel just because India Bravo are 2 point zones. But you didn't actually tell your guy to do that, did you? Or
no, I didn't. When I was telling him with the defense markers, what I originally wanted him to do is to lightly push Hotel, and then if he didn't succeed, just set up a defensive line there and attack on the attack marker to the right of Echo on the forest to kind of support the middle guy's flank, which he does do that to some extent, but I don't think he pushed Hotel as much as I would have liked him to. But it was like his 16th game, and I'll give him credit. He played pretty well, given that.
yeah, most of these guys haven't even played 30 games, so it's just to be fair to them, and we're not even gonna really look at their stuff. Not necessarily because it's not interesting, but because they're trying to learn the game, and that's fine, you know. But also we want to focus on commentating on our section, I guess. Here's my ninja coming up. You see, it's my exceptional optics recon helicopter. I see his Mi-2 and I go for it because I want a blind Potato.
And I managed to notice it coming in time, and I should move it here in a second. I know it lives.
Yeah. This is also, I saw your BTR-88 coming up here, and I knew you had Spetsnaz Gru in there, so that actually diverts some of my infantry here over to the left to counter them. And I think I
See,
also saw your Tunguska.
I buy a buck really early because I again thought you were playing Blue Dragon, so I was waiting for like a peace pheasant or something. And so normally I wouldn't have bought a buck this early, and that was 70 points that I could have spent on assaulting, which I knew that
You thought I was playing Blue Dragon for like half the game, didn't you? I think you said that after the
I
game.
did because I misidentified the gun tank as a South Korean unit. And
Oh
you
yeah.
can flame me in the comments. I know it. I hadn't played, and I was like, I think that's South Korean. So I kept waiting for like a peace pheasant or something. So that's why I called in the buck.
Here's me
You can see
scouting
here
with
I'm dropping
KVs.
smoke. I'm moving
Yeah.
in. I'm getting my VDV down. I split one T90 off to cover my left flank because that's where my UAZ is, and then I move the other T90. It was supposed to move in and support, but again the rust. I kept it back. It didn't move. I try to snipe his ninja. The Tunguska misses. And overall,
Absolutely.
this opening engagement was
Well,
pretty poor.
F1. I saw your Tunguska and I called in an F1, also
Yeah,
known
you
as
see, I didn't
Japanese
even move the
Seed.
Tunguska like that. I think actually one of my teammates actually calls in something to intercept it, and I try to move the Tunguska, but it's too late.
Yeah. That was a worthy
At
trade for
the
me, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. And during this time in the game, I, for whatever reason, thought this engagement was going extremely favorably for me. And then I went back and watched the replay, and I was like, man, I got completely destroyed at
Well,
this point.
you can see, like, I have my tanks, like, right up with my... I mean, I often comment that I use tanks in forest fighting, and this is exactly, like, very close support with my infantry. You know, you finally got your T90 up, and we discussed it, but I think had you been a little more condensed with your units like I was, you could have had more firepower. And then I think I called in a Kai to kind of mop up and stun you. I was trying to stun your BU, but I missed him.
Yeah, and here you can see I call in a wave of ASU 85Ms, just kind of cheesy. They're 10 points, but the
Very
goal
cheesy.
was to try and the goal was to try and divert Raven's attention.
Oh, my Chumat misses the BU right there. That would have side shot would have changed the game for me, and then you saw it and reversed.
Yeah, the second shot actually does impact, but it,
Yeah.
again, like you said, it only does 1 damage because I saw the missile coming.
And with their
So with,
veterancy, they have like 70% or more. Like that, statistically, that probably should have hit, but you know, it's just random number gods, I guess. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
so I have my ASUs and I have another wave of VDV coming. I wanted to go and move in behind the Chumats. I wanted to take the Chumats out once I realized that they were there. And then I wanted to move in and take the forest at the bottom of India so I could kind of encircle Raven. And then by that point, I was hoping that I could kind of cut off reinforcements and then mop up what was in the front of India and go
As
from there.
as in the force to the right of my mortar, you mean,
Right.
or oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
So I was going to use the woods where my T90 and my UAZ are sitting as a launching point. I make a smoke wall down like the right side of India and just move those ASUs and the VDV into those woods so I could kind of cut off reinforcements as you were moving them up.
And you do try that in a minute. This is actually an authentic Soviet airborne push, because ASU 85s are actually airborne VDV support tankettes, I guess. They're supposed to be airdroppable, so they actually were used in concert with VDV, apparently. Granted, they're a 1959 unit.
And you can see another, a little bit of rust showing. I let my ASUs kind of sit out in the open. This was kind of like my staging area. I didn't want to just fast move everything in piecemeal. I wanted everything to get in a nice cluster, I guess, so I could move it in at one time, and I totally forgot that the Chumats were there during the time of the game. You can see me now trying to
Comes the
smoke.
smoke, yeah.
It's a little bit late.
They're out of missiles almost. I'm
So then
actually
here comes the
pretty weak.
ASUs. You can see I kind of fail with the smoke wall. I don't think I fire my mortars again. Oh, they're firing now.
You try and smoke my tanks, I think, but you didn't quite get them. I should have had an infantry squad with the Chumat to kind of defend that town, but I don't remember what I think I was stretched thin, like trying to. I mean, obviously I didn't do it. I should have. See, my Nanayon Shikijis are using their grenade launcher to suppress those VDV. They're a really nice tank for 60 point. Oh, make 27k. Got my Kyumaru.
And then this point, during my attack, I kind of knew, I guess you could say, I kind of smelled blood in the water, and I really wanted to push into India because I knew Raven didn't have much in terms of anti-armor. Like, he had these Chumats, but I'm getting ready to move in a VDV squad to take him out. Most of his infantry squads are damaged. He's got AA, but he really doesn't have much here. He has a Kiyomaru moving up.
You see,
I really wanted to push in and.
I actually got Chugata cargo coming up because in our opening engagement, I didn't lose much, but all my stuff got really damaged, so I didn't get to repair them in time. And then you're right, losing my Kyumaru was a pretty big deal. Though, thankfully, I did have one coming up the road at least. But
I don't know if it was you or not. Somebody bombed your Chumats.
oh.
They were almost dead anyway. But
strike. Oh, that was me. I was like gonna get the VDV.
Another part I messed up on this attack is you can see my T90. One of my T90s is almost out of the back of Bravo, and then the other one's still sitting in the woods, not moving up. And I knew playing, well, what I thought was a Blue Dragon deck is I was going to have the armor advantage, so I was very cautious with my T90s, and I wanted to use them. I wanted to have them on the field and kind of establish the presence of them on the field, but I didn't want to lose them to like a Peace Pheasant. But again, he's playing a Japanese deck, so he doesn't actually have Peace Pheasants.
Tunguska's gonna snipe my Cobra here that I called. This was like my cavalry to turn the tide, and he got like one missile off. 360 no scope from Tunguska. There I pinged it. I'm like, someone artillery that bastard.
And now you can see at the bottom right of India, a Leopard 2A4 kind of moving into the woods, and that is going to be a key unit sort of later on in the game. I never really paid attention to this 2A4, and even though it's not quite a super heavy tank, it's still a decent tank. But he puts it, who was this? Charles de Gaulle puts it in a pretty good spot. It really anchors Raven's flank and allows them to focus more on the front of India.
Yeah, I did get a lot of help from my allies, and that helped me overcome being a Japanese deck against a very well-made USSR deck to some extent. You're right. Like your two BUs right now, you have two super heavies. I only have one. I didn't really overcome that disparity for a long time, and like you said, you were always worried for a Peace Pheasant, but I was always worried of your BUs pushing through and just rolling over me, treading me into the mud with their treads. And that was kind of the danger for me, at least.
And in hindsight, of course, is always 20/20. But during that time, I had my Spetsnaz GRU kind of get into a light skirmish with your. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. Squads on the side. Your infantry squads on the side. I kind of get in a little firefight, and then I move off because, I'm outnumbered almost 2-1. I managed to kill one guy in one of the squads, but looking back, this is kind of a fatal error on my part, because if you look at Raven's forces, I just keep trying to drag his attention across this zone. I mean, we only have a very limited space to work with, but a lot of the times if you attack in multiple areas, even in the same spot, you're almost guaranteed to break through in one of those areas. And this was an area of the map that I should have taken advantage of. You can see the front left corner of India is wide open. There's nothing there defending it directly. I keep focusing on this bottom right, trying to advance across the open field rather than getting in close on this left side.
Oh yeah,
and part of that is the way my deck is built. It's a very armored focus. I don't try and get in prolonged infantry engagements, so I wanted to avoid that on the left side of the town, because even if you would have had a Blue Dragon deck, a Japanese deck, you'd have the availability advantage. But I didn't want to get into an infantry fight with a Blue Dragon deck, because I feel like USSR infantry is worse. So I wanted to avoid that if at all possible.
Yeah, well, like you say, just pulling attention back and forth, and pulling attention and also points spent and units deployed is really important, rather than kind of butting heads on one area, which I think is kind of the pitfall we fell into here. Here I'm about to get screwed though. I've actually recovered a little bit. I have a Kiyomaro, I have a little bit of infantry, but then you Uragan me, and look at this Uragan just stuns everything. It stuns my Kutai, who are like, look how far away they are from the epicenter.
It's took out a whole squad of your infantry there.
Yeah, so my Kutai get caught out in the open. The MiG-27 comes, but I turned my gun off and backed off because I saw him.
And this point right here in the game I felt was pivotal. That MiG-27K was definitely a game changer because I had sight of that Kiyomaru up until maybe a split second before he fired his ATGM.
Just shot him too, and I'm backing up. I'm like, oh no. I'm really on the back foot. I mean, if that Leopard 2A4 is really saving my butt right now, but had you killed that Kiyomaru, you would have won here. I noticed you have one T-72BU in the back still. You left him behind.
Yeah, during the game, like I said, I think around this time is when I realized, like, hey, Raven is actually a Japanese deck, so I wasn't worried too much about Peace Pheasants. But if you notice, I noticed at some point during the game, if you look next to my Tunguska that's at the top of or the bottom of Bravo from our perspective, but you see that pockmark on the ground, which is from an Attackums. So no, somebody on the field has an Attackums out. So I didn't want to commit both of my BUs and wind up losing them in one Attackums strike. So I was kind of keeping one in reserve, which in hindsight probably was the wrong choice, but...
Here's my infantry getting screwed. Like, I had these 4 squads of reinforcement coming out. They just get caught out in the open and slaughtered. I didn't even have a mortar to smoke for them, which is what I would have done, but my mortar died somehow or another.
At this point in the game, I was feeling really good, and I mean, if you look, I was in a pretty good position. I mean, your Kiyomaru is down to 4 bars of health. You have a 2A4, but I have armor superiority over that, and I think at the time I had 2 or 3 ATGM planes waiting around that could have killed it. And then the left flank is just 2 gun tanks and a couple squads of infantry. And as I was saying earlier, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, but I really missed an opportunity on that left flank to take advantage.
I mean, this whole area is like I was pretty on the back foot here. You see, I got one Kiyomaro coming up the road. I think as soon as he gets there is when the window starts to close. I have these IFVs coming up as well.
See an HC from Oslo moving in.
This is kind of like the window closing, I think. But I think had you had your other BU up, you probably could have done a lot more damage. You can probably see my... Oh, no, not anymore. I think you could have saw my Kiyomaro there for a second. He was very evasive the whole game.
And then you have your command out in the open as well. And that's kind of another point I wanted to hit on, that I didn't really recon very well this game.
Yeah, you can't see him right now.
I have a BR-1K on the front line, but I have an MI2 kind of vaguely over the left flank. But looking at it, I don't think you can actually see anything. And then I have the Spetsnaz GRU, which just tried to move up again, but I ran into the infantry squad and backed off instead of trying to see what I could do. I
zoomed in on my Hanbu there, and like, they're behind, like there's no way you could see them unless you had maybe a helicopter like right above your trees there, but like though they're in the open, they're actually really well hidden here, and they're not in a spot you'd expect. So I don't remember, I think I just set them there and didn't think about it. I probably meant to put them in the trees just behind them, but that's actually a pretty good spot for them. They're not as exposed as people might think. I should probably... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I should probably just fucking A. Okay, let me go. I should probably just talk about like what's happening is that on our right hand side, Mons kind of took Potato's defensive advice to heart a little bit too much and didn't push Hotel. So this whole time we've had a 1-point advantage in the score. Or not the whole time, because we don't have a CV. Or they neutralized India. We were slow getting CVs up, and so once we get control of India back, we'll be up by 1, and then just because of that we're getting the points, but otherwise I think Red's doing a lot better than we are right now.
Yeah, and That CV was really late on my part. If it would have been up here sooner, I think I could have held the zone maybe a little bit better than I did. You can see Raven is positioning his Q-Marus on the left flank now, so that once again it's another window kind of closing where my chance to take that left flank I feel like is kind of gone now, which I don't know if you keep that Q-Maru there the whole time, but
He stays there quite a while until I think your BU hits him here though. See, I'm back, and I just did a little sortie there to kill an A. I back up, take a BU hit on the nose. I'm out of there. There's your MiG-20. I was always dodging ATGM planes like this whole game because I didn't. Because I was always on the back foot, so I never had the chance to get an effective AA net up. So I was always playing defensive in terms of hiding my stuff. You see,
Go ahead.
Just saying, I'm hunting for your CV with my 203mm. Because I know we gotta kill this CV because we're down by 2 right now because they just also neutralized Lima.
Yeah, I think at this point I realize that you're gonna kill the Jeep, but I wanted to keep it in for as long as possible, just to try and get a little bit of a points lead.
Got your Uragan counter battering.
I think that decision pays off. I don't think it dies for quite a while, but normally this deck that I use, I have a T80 UK, and normally I would use that as my frontline command, and that probably would have been a lot better in this situation because the only thing that really could have killed it was an attackums or a direct, push into the forest.
If it was a UK.
For whatever reason, right, and for whatever reason I put a UAZ in.
You probably just didn't have the points, is what I would guess.
Here comes the
ASU
another
horde.
ASU.
Someone's being a spammer. There's actually a lot of action going on in the middle, but it's all over this little forest here, which I think is a little bit of a flaw of this map. Is it sucks if you're at Lima because you just got this little patch and you're getting look at all these craters around it. You can see Red Forest got pretty much air dominance because I never. Well, here comes some ASFs, but I could never buy my ASF until the end. I think these are Charles de Gaulle's ASFs, but then they. Oh no, they get out. At one point he called both out, and then he forgot to evac them because he was doing something else, and then they both die, unfortunately.
So this next attack is kind of another key point in the game. As you'll see, I call it all those ASU 85s, also call it a T80UM. And the plan was to use the ASUs as a kind of screening force for the T80UM, and I was going to try and do the same thing where I was going to push into that bottom right hand of India, which you can see now. I mean, there's an HC, a 2A4.
Yeah, did you know that HC was there? Were you aware of that?
I had no idea that HC was there. I didn't see the HC until maybe, I think the game was over pretty much. Well, not in terms of points, but...
Did you know the Leopard was there?
I knew the Leopard was there, because he raped that first, or second ASU push.
Q-Maru near miss again. I send my Shiki up there just to distract the BU. Then... Did you have an 8? No. I put my guy back into hiding because I realized he's stealth, so I didn't want an ATGM plane to pick him off as he made the run to the Chugatas and the short arrow.
So I have a Uragan that some reason moving up to the front lines. That could have almost been a disaster. You can see it behind Bravo. I should move it back here soon.
You can see Potato loves this. Those Uragans are badass.
They're very good. Very good assault weapon. You can see in the back at Oscar for Blue 4, you can see an attackums aiming, which this attackums has been aiming for I think the last 3 minutes, but it plays a key role in the battle on the left side.
I pinged an attack marker here like 5 minutes ago when does anybody have artillery, and Oslo here goes, he's British, he goes, oh yeah mate, I'll fire right now. Like 5 minutes later I hear, why is this damn thing not firing? And I look over and it's an attackums like reloading for an hour. But here's Potato pushing with his smoke. I see you left your UM behind like you said because you sent your ASUs up.
Yep. That's another kind of key mistake in this game, which is partly rust and Well, it was pretty bad play. I'll own up to it. It was pretty bad. I did a lot of things right this game. I also did a lot of things very poorly, and one of them was coherently attacking.
Here comes a MiG-27 for the 2A. I think a lot of your kills were picking off tanks with ATGM planes, probably. On that subject, like attacking is really the hardest thing you can do in Wargame, and especially in a zone like this where it's against an entrenched guy and you gotta take it to win the game. Because remember, they don't have hotel over here, so.
Right. So now I killed that 2A4, and at this point I'm thinking, well, I'm home free. You know, I'm gonna get in there and take this force, and then this is when I see the HC, and I think all of my ATGM planes at this point are on cooldown. So I kind of halt my ASUs for the most part. Some of them continue on for the glory of the motherland, but
There's a bonsai charge into the, like, you see you fighting your Uragan. It's fair you shot it, like, or you targeted it a minute ago, but I think you could have really broken up my bonsai charge here if you'd. See, I just carpet bombed the forest with 3 planes now.
yeah, and this is when here goes my command. What I was hoping to do is that Uragan was going to support my teammate in the middle and allow us to break through at Lima, and that would kind of relieve some of the pressure on the left side, because once I saw the HC there, I knew that all 3 people on the blue force side were helping in some way on this left flank.
Oh, it was a good Uragan shot, don't get me wrong. You really screwed up the Gaulle there.
Yeah. But at this point in the game, I kind of lost steam. I think we missed it, but I lost I lost the T90 to that attack-em shot. You can kind of see it.
Yeah, the attackums came over here and hit him right as I was pushing. Real good. It was just a random shot. Real good luck. I pinged this attack marker, yeah. I actually saw it. Like, I saw it and I pinged that attack marker, and then I lose sight of it. And I moved my ninja up here to see it again, and I have Oslo with a horn. I'm like, oh, get it out there, get it. And I told him to put it over Mike and come and side shot it. But luckily, he gets the BU. Loses it, but he gets the BU at least, and that's really. Because you only have 4 super heavies between your UMs and your BUs, and once that dies, I have a big advantage in my potential super heavies because I have 6 Q Marus I can call out. There's another Cobra just died. That was another
sort of moment of poor, sloppy play. If you notice, I had my PU actually up on cap the whole time because I knew that my plane or my tanks were going to be vulnerable moving across that open field. I call out my PU and he's kind of loitering behind my lines. I definitely saw the Hornet come out, but I figured that maybe he would just kind of be deterred by my PU, but he comes in and suicide runs it anyway. Which was a good play on his part, because by that time he'd completely shut down any armor that I had, pretty much.
Look at this spear. Like, it's got its gun off, which you should do, obviously, but look how close I don't even see it. Look how close I am. Like, that's got exceptional optics. Like, you can see so much stuff back here with it, you know. Those really are. I really like those units, those BRM-1K.
So at this point, the game's kind of winding down. You see all my ATGM planes coming in, just trying to make something happen.
Kill the APC.
I don't know what that was all about. But it says I can see the Kilmaru, and then it disappears, and I think I just tell my 27M to evac at this point.
I had my cloaking devices going.
This kind of... The battle on the left side is kind of starting to wind down. I've lost most of my momentum. I don't have any pushing units.
Yeah, so I mean, this is pretty much the game. I will say at this point we're still pretty far behind you. We're just trying to catch up. I mean, we're basically 100. We only have half your points, and so at some point I think I snipe or make them move the CV in Delta. But otherwise, I mean, we've got it pretty secure. We're doing the long march by 1 point by 1 point, and I mean, eventually we do overtake you. So this is. I mean, I could tell you were kind of like, well, GG at this point, I guess.
Right. And I definitely want to commend my teammates. I think they did a very good job, considering most of them had less than 20 games played.
Yeah, there's a lot of action in the middle.
Yeah, we didn't really show the fight in the middle too much, but I mean, you just kind of look at it right now. You can see the forest in Lima is pretty much gone.
Well, that's a problem with Lima. I mean, even if you take it, then you're the one confined to this little bush, and like, where do you go? So I really wish there was more cover in Lima, both for attacking and defending.
Oh, have any final thoughts on this one?
Well, no, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the USSR deck because we play it a lot. I see your Uragons, and I always hate getting hit by them. There you are trying to kill a CV because you're a bastard. But what did you think of my Japanese deck? Because I don't play it very often, and I've never. I mean, I don't hear what people think about it either.
Well, I think the Japanese deck is actually one of the stronger national decks. It's very weak in the Air Force, and the anti-air is kind of lackluster. But I think it definitely has potential, and if you're, in the hands of a better player, it can be really scary to play against. Because you said you had 6 Kyomarus in
Mm-hmm.
that deck,
Yep.
so even like a Japanese deck can field more heavy tanks than a USSR deck can, which is kind of questionable. But
And they're 12 rate of fire auto loaded tanks. I mean, those are good tanks. I mean, they're very damaging, very powerful.
I definitely think Raven played pretty well, and I did some good things, I did some bad things, but the important thing is to go back, watch the replay, learn what you did wrong, because you can always improve at something.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, to be fair, I got two heavy tanks from my allies and an attackums and a hornet, which killed two. I mean, so I definitely got help. It wasn't just Raven with a Japanese deck either. But yeah, the Japanese deck, it's one of those decks that like it's really good, except for a couple critical weaknesses that it almost feels like Eugen just wrote in for the sake of, oh, they're part of a coalition, so South Korea has these things like Seed and like ATGM planes. So
Japanese decks are also very good at fooling people into thinking they're Blue Dragon decks.
yeah, you throw out your gun tanks, people think they're BHOs. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game. It's definitely like a challenging game to come back to, and it was fun. I like Patty Fields. I like the Japanese deck. I don't like Uragons, but you only used them against me twice, I think. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I didn't
mean,
really use my artillery too much this game.
oh, I don't know about that. Charles de Gaulle was like flipping out every time a Uragon landed on the. I guess the craters have gone away, but this place right here was pretty mashed up, I think. The only thing I'd point out, I guess, from this, and not involving our side anymore, is like, at hotel here, it's like they're kind of just turtling, looking at each other. Whereas, had Oslo pushed like over into Echo from the right, he could have saved Lima so much headache. Or likewise, had Mons either pushed hotel or just redeployed like 80% of these over to Echo to help break through once he saw Oslo was and again, these are new players for the most part, so it's not it's not like you guys sucked at this or anything. That's not what it's about. It's just live and learn, and like that. If you're in a situation like this, that's what you should do. Never become passive and just wait for things to happen or see what happens. And I almost had to be passive myself just because I was so hard pressed for most of the game, and then I think only at the end, like the last 3 or 4 minutes, was I finally in a position where I could say that I had basically won and I was comfortable, but by that time it was too late to even bother pushing. Some Lars raping Lima. So yeah, I guess is there anything else to cover, or are we done for today?
I think we've covered everything. Um, it's a good game.
Yeah. Oh, those are the Uragons. Cluster Uragons, 2 Lars there and kills them. Very good counter battery for a new player with only like 17 games. That's what I like to see.
Even caught a Humvee with a small squad in it.
Yeah. So, anyways, remember this was the Wargame Learning Program. This was ostensibly to teach these guys how to play, and I hope we helped them out. But Also, I hope you've learned a little bit from watching this video. As always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, leave little love notes for me in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I guess that's about all we have today. So thanks to Potato for playing and for casting with me, and this is Raven signing off.